was kind of hard to keep the morale up, especially when our own, we find out at home that everybody's spitting on people when they're coming back, and everybody's calling us baby killers and everything else when there's a lot of horsemen around.
See all those names etched up in that wall, 58,000 plus names, and all those guys, the majority of them are all kids. None of them had a chance to have a full life, have a family, you know, and that breaks my heart.
The title of my unit in the first cab was Kill for Ice Cream. For every kill, we got free ice cream. The first day in the field, they asked me where I was from. I said Tennessee. They said, you ever did hunting? So they made me point man. From first day on, I was point man.
My name is Lee Burns. I'm a retired Marine gunner sergeant. Did 20 years and 20 days. Spent 13 months in Vietnam. I went out in Quezon with 26 men. I came back with 6. I went out on 2 July 67 as a platoon leader, and 2 hours later as a company commander with 56 killed and 1 missing. My battalion is known as the Purple Heart Battalion. 1st Battalion, 9th Marines.
Sit down and write. If I thought about it long enough, I could write the day's events, everything that happened for the 8 months I was there. Can't remember what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago, but you can sure as hell remember what happened in Vietnam. Basically, my experience in Vietnam was a positive experience because we did good things and all that, but war is not positive, it's not fun. You do what you got to do. You follow the orders. And luckily everybody gave orders, did it right. I'm here.
Well, my dad was proud of me. My mother thought I was going to die. And I surprised her I lived. I felt as though it was something I had to do. Flag weaver type of thing. There's something that nobody ever wants to cop out to. They'll never say, flag weaver, no, I just went there for the money. Nah, there are flag weavers in here.
After I've seen my first dead Marine, I turned into one mean, nasty. As far as mean and nasty as far as the Vietnamese people. Then all of a sudden you're sitting on a helipad waiting for a chopper to come take you to your unit, and you look off the side and you see about 4 or 5 black bags laying there. You don't know what the hell they are. Excuse my language. You don't know what they are, and later on you find out what they are. And it's a realization that brings into life, and it's evil and cold. It's just unreal to take a young man that young and sack him right into such God, I can't think of the words, man. I'm not that smart anyway.
We had absolutely no idea what we were getting into. I had absolutely no idea. We knew we were going to Vietnam. I didn't even know where it was. And all those guys that went over there, the majority of them, were all kids, They're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids. And all of us, we were kids. We were real naive.
I wear 2 bracelets. One is from an officer that was in my division. I didn't know him, but he went down. And the other one's from the Korean War, and that's my father. He's still, his status is still a POW MIA from the Korean War. I still believe that there's live POWs everywhere from all wars. It's just that our government, and this is on my own personal point of view, it's they've forsaken them, but those that have served haven't forgotten them, and we intend to bring them back.
You got to remember, you still have 78,751 still missing from World War II. You got 8,177 still missing from Korea. And you still got missing from Vietnam. And the one you got from Desert Storm. Well, you can see all those bodies, you know. You got to remember this. Somebody's husband, somebody's sons. You know, we also had families too, you know, not just us.
You know, all those people that lost sons and husbands and fathers like that. What did they get out of Vietnam? We should have never been there in the first place. If we're going to give it away, why mess with it? You know, nothing's worth it. What did it prove? It didn't prove a damn thing. 50,000 guys lost their lives. For what? Gave the whole thing back to them.
In theory, we were preserving the freedom for the Vietnamese people. And unfortunately, the average farmer, he didn't give a damn who was in power.
We stopped the communists there from overrunning other places. The biggest problem was the people that were there didn't care whether you had communists or not. And when you have a government that's riddled with criminals and other selected people, you're not going to get anywhere.
Our entire time in Vietnam, you know, we figured we were doing right. I think what we were there for was right. Again, to stop communism and to keep the people free.
When you save somebody's freedom, then it's a just cause. But they didn't really care if they had the freedom or not.
Do you think we had a right to be there?
Yes.
Can you explain?
Can anybody in their own mind look anywhere and watch children being killed, massacred? Mainly I follow orders, whether I like it or not.
We pulled this dead Marine out of the river, and he had his testicles cut off, stuffed in his mouth, and a note written, "GI, go home."
A lot of men died to win, gave their lives to win, gave their legs, their arms, their eyes, their minds to win a war that we weren't going to win. I wish we could have won the war, but it wasn't meant to be. Our government didn't want to win the war.
The reason we were there and the cause for us being there was just. It was, I think we should have been there. It's just how the war was fought, the politics behind it, that kept us really from not winning the war.
All the restraints and everything else, the military won the battles. We won the war. We won the battles. We lost the war. And that's what grates on a lot of veterans, believe me.
You know, you keep hearing, well, it's the first war the United States lost, but in reality, we didn't lose it. We pulled out of that country with honor. But I would like to say we didn't really lose that war. The United States didn't lose that war. We won every single battle that was fought over there. And when Vietnam fell, the United States had been out of Vietnam for 2 years and left the South Vietnamese in charge to fight that war, and they lost it. It wasn't the United States that lost it, it was South Vietnam that lost it.
And for all the politics involved, you know, they withdrew us out. We didn't lose that war. You know, you look at all the battles that were fought, we won every battle there was. As far as losing the war, we didn't lose it. Peace accord was signed in
1972. Saigon fell in 1974. We weren't even in there, so how could you lose a war if you're not there?
This is my station and post in life. They trained me for this.
Helping out all the good brothers in town, man.
God bless you.
That's what it's all about, man.
God bless
You
you.
have a good week, huh?
You
Thanks,
too.
buddy, too. All right, we'll see you soon.
Hey, this is my last Wednesday for a while.
It is?
Yeah, I'll be going to the VA soon.
Are you?
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to admit me in for a while. These are my brothers and sisters in the street. When I came home from Vietnam, these are the people that embraced me. I was homeless myself for a while. I work at a church that feeds the homeless. I cook. And a lot of the people that I cook for are ex-veterans. I just make pancakes, brother. I've been making pancakes now for
13 years.
over 13 years now. For over 13 years I've made apple pancakes. I've made banana pancakes, chocolate pancakes, cinnamon pancakes. But these are the days that I'm tired and I'm lazy, I just make pancakes.
Don't forget the banana ones you
I added the banana ones in there. I made pancakes that tasted so bad they ate them anyway.
Because right now, me, my wife, my dog Max, like I said, live on the streets of Santa Monica. I sleep on a sidewalk. Well, my name is Angel Luis Santiago. Come from Puerto Rico. My little sturgeon started in Da Nang. Was dumped in the H-Arm Valley. Used to call it the meat grinder. I was there 68, 69, and 69, coming up out of the bush. 16-year-old child with a sideline got me. That's why I'm in this wheelchair. But today I'm penniless, living on the streets, and I help my country. Why can't my country help me?
Our country should do something to help them out. Our country. Because for whatever reason, they help serve. We spend a lot of money servicing a lot of other countries and stuff like that. I say take care of the people that fought for you, or the people that was there for you. Some want to be there. Some weren't mentally strong enough to handle some things. Whatever. I think we should take care of them whatever way they seem fit. You know, if they want to just stay out there and be in the toolies, let's make a place for them to be out there in the toolies. That's where they feel comfortable.
You know, they keep saying, well, why don't the vets go to the VA and get some help? Oh, yeah, well, the VA help is just like everybody else's help. I mean, when a bunch of people come along and say, you can't have your life anymore, it's ours, and make you run around and shoot at people, a lot of people come out of situations like that and they can't cope one way or another. And who are you going to ask to help you? The Veterans Administration? Why, that's just the Army all over again. Those are the same guys that put you through it in the first place.
I feel, badly about it. If the war in some way contributed to their mental well-being that put them in that situation, then the government, I believe, is responsible for them. Absolutely.
Have no help from nobody. Matter of fact, they just took my SSI away. Because I have a warrant for driving without a license in the state of New Hampshire.
They've also cut out almost all the programs in all of our VA facilities. There used to be a program for the homeless veterans, and they've cut that out. Our government's cut all sorts of programs out for us, but they're not going to allocate us. And what I asked the governor was, what are you going to do about all the 60% of us homeless are American Vietnam veterans? I said, what are you going to do about it? He couldn't give me an answer. And I asked him, what about your policy to abate homelessness? And he couldn't give me an answer about that neither.
All the flashes started when you did this. When you did that, cat.
Yep.
You did like that.
Yeah, he got hold of his other hand. Governor's trying to pull away. Then he's going to allocate a whole 5% of the budget to the homeless veterans, which is about $5 million, which here in Southern California won't even buy a building.
I don't think our government did enough to help these veterans through these rough times that they had. So it makes me feel really bad when I see a homeless person, especially a veteran who's served in Vietnam.
I think that's terrible. I think that's just, they got to do something about that.
They're not doing us right. They just don't do the vets right. I come out of Vietnam. I didn't get anything. I need, when I worked hard all my life. I drove semi and everything, But when I got disabled, I got in a wreck, you know. I go to the government, I get nothing. They wouldn't give me a damn thing, you know. So I ended up out here on the streets. They bring the Asians over here. They give them $10,000. They give them a business loan, you know, on the home and everything else. But what do they do for the vets? Nada.
I'm not too hot on that. They are given a lot more than they should be given. If I want to start a business, they'd probably put thumbs down. If I want to start a little hair salon, they'd probably give me $100,000 to start one.
Yeah. Doggy. Doggy was hell. Yes, that's my doggy. My wife. I wish he would have been with me over there. I love my people. That lady, that man, that lady. I love them all. Okay? And if I had to put my life on the line for them again, I do it. Because they're my people. And we're free. And they ain't nobody in this world is going to take that freedom away from us.
It took me 30 years to build the courage to go to a vet center. It was kind of degrading to go and sign up for welfare. That was really degrading. I did ceramic tile for quite a long time, and I really loved my boss there. And he was a great guy, and he understood. He always told me, he joked about Vietnam with me a lot, and we got along good. He told me he stayed here and took care of all our women. So I appreciated that. I liked him. He was a good man.
Some of them have to and can't do any better than that, and some of them choose to because it's an easy way of living.
How do you feel about the people who have to?
Well, ones that have to, that's a shame.
I did construction jobs under the table. They were the only jobs that people would hire me as a drug addict, you know, because they didn't ask questions, they didn't take a piss test, and they didn't care as long as you did your work. So those are basically the only work I've done in the last 20, 25 years.
I'm sleeping on the street. I got Santa Monica PD telling me I gotta move. I gotta move from a piece of space that I ain't bothering nobody in. Is that the way that a vet is supposed to be treated?
We're looked upon by our police department as just scumbags. And many of us have fought. We fought for this land, and now that even if we're homeless, we can't even stay on this land. And it really upsets us a lot.
I've heard they found guys on Skid Row and every place like that, homeless guys with Medal of Honor. Medals of Honor. I mean, that's our highest decoration for our country. A Medal of Honor winner should have something better than to lean up against a building and look for his next bottle of wine or something.
A lot of those people should never have been in the military in the first place. Some of those people is a real tragedy, and some of those people, they are a tragedy because they're bullshit. They were in the rear with the gear and didn't see anything.
And this memorial here, setting it up this morning, it means to a lot of us that served over there. I've got almost 100 names on the wall, and I always think about the guys that we shared food together, slept in the same areas together, but we're from different companies, and we talk that night and go off, and how many of those that were killed that I can't remember the names of. That's the hard part. Trying to remember their names, because most of the time you first name or just a nickname, and that was it. But you became friends, you became family.
Well, you got to remember, we have buddies on there. I have guys I grew up with in the neighborhood, guys I went to school with from grammar school, junior high, high school, guys I played ball with from all over. I have 150-something people on there.
20-some years later, they finally welcomed us home, you know. After they put the wall up and it was finally welcome home, you know. They finally looked at the Vietnam veteran as he did something for their country. So, you know, now we get the pat on the back. We didn't get it at the time when we came home. I went up on a helicopter again, and this time basically they were saying, you know, you have machine gun experience, well, we want you to ride gunner. I said, okay, fine. And I wanted basically to go up and take photos. So they said, well, you'll get good photos, you'll be, you know, in gunner position, you're going to be hanging out the door, so you can get whatever photos you want. So I said, fantastic. So we took up, we were up probably for a couple of hours flying around, and I was wired in with a headset to the pilot, and the pilot would give me orders to shoot or not shoot. So I was basically riding gunner position and had no idea what I was getting into, but we went over some areas where they wanted me to fire into the brush or into the jungle, and thought they saw Viet Cong and movements, and I would just fire away.
The Viet Cong had raided a plateau. There were sort of Marines up there, and Seabees, it was an airfield, major property. And he read, that was part of Tet Offensive. They want everything they had, went up there. It was something like about 100 to 1.
See, because on our Christmas, they'd attack us. But on their Tet, we couldn't fire at them. See, that's what they always call it, a Tet Offensive, because that's when they always came at us.
Tet was the Asian New Year, and normally it was celebrated by fireworks and gongs and just mainly celebration like our 4th of July. But after the Tet Offensive, the Viet Cong were almost destroyed. They lost about 250,000 men.
See, when you get hit at night on a logger site or a fire base or any perimeter, when they would hit you, they would try to overrun you. Sometimes they come downright close to doing it. And I remember after one such battle, the accumulation of the bodies, and I had an officer come up to me and said, Sergeant Gomez, I said, yes sir, he says, get a detail and go through all the bodies, see what you can find. So the body count was 900 and something. And by the time we finished going through them, roughing through it, looking for papers and so on and so forth, the flies and the stench were something else. You gotta remember, it was 120 degrees in the shade.
We went out and we looked for the enemy, for them to fire on us, or for us to fire on them. As soon as we found the enemy, we pulled back, and they called in the pink teams, which was your computerized helicopters, which come in and then they fire up the area. Then we go in and look for a body count. If we get a body count, that's where the ice cream came in.
I've seen bodies stacked as high as 2 stories. You know, and the smell of death, I still remember. I still remember the smell of shit.
Each day that we drove to the city, the bodies of civilians, the bodies of South Vietnamese soldiers, of North Vietnamese soldiers, just staying out there in the road day after day. You go by the same bodies each time.
They never were there, my man, to see the ambushes of innocent Vietnamese. The massacres I went into, man. Do you know what it is to walk into a village where there's hundreds of people and finding no one alive, man?
They would never free us.
Children. The Viet Cong did that, man. They used to go into villages, and if the men didn't fight for them, they shoot them all. That was the Viet Cong's thing, man. Charlie was not nice. Charlie had no respect for life.
Seeing women and children die horribly. I thought about my children being butchered over there. I couldn't face that. I couldn't legally have a nice life knowing that they're butchering children over there in the most horrible way.
And they were yelling to us, come and give them help. They didn't have enough help dragging the wounded off these helicopters and the dead off the helicopters. So we ran out and we were pulling off a lot of civilians too, mostly little kids that had gotten caught in crossfire. And one guy that I pulled off was a Marine who had got the afterburn of a rocket launcher and burned his face. His whole face was like third-degree burns. Pulled off a couple of real young South Vietnamese kids who had been shot and wounded. That stuck in my mind a lot. It was kind of sad seeing something like that. Another couple of guys we pulled off had been hit by what they call phosphorus rounds. And the phosphorus rounds, when they hit your flesh, continue to burn into the flesh. It continues to burn and burn. We were pulling these guys off and their stomach was still burning. I don't know how many of those guys actually made it. I don't think a whole lot of them did. They looked pretty bad.
The Army, they used to send us to the big whorehouse every 45 days. We got 3 days in Bung Tao, and that's all it was whorehouses. So those 3 days, you party like crazy. You put all the bad things in the back of your mind and you just party, drinking, drugs, women, everything you could want, whatever you could want.
A lot of times they have, when you go out there, you think you're going to have some sex, but they kill you. Simple as that.
They knew they couldn't take our butts the original way, so they had to go in other ways. It was great. But again, like I said, there were a lot of times when the enemy would take women and infect them with diseases. You know what I mean? And then they'd cut them loose among us.
Like what kind of diseases?
Oh, syphilis, gonorrhea, you name it.
I said, one guy went to the village and he was going to get him to have some sex, and the girl he had sex with had razor blades in her vagina. And cut him up pretty bad. He died.
So that's the only way they beat us. Was women and drugs. That was the only way they beat us over there. But when it comes to fighting, they had a better chance than God.
We couldn't go across the Cambodian border or the Laotian border, and the Viet Cong could. So they'd come in and hit our ground troops and then retreat back across the border, and we couldn't pursue them, not legally.
Did you chase them illegally?
Well, I don't know, personally, but I could bet there were enough CIA units and special forces units that their operations were classified, so I don't know where they were or not.
I saw children kill their own families in Cambodia. And the whole world sat back and did nothing about it.
Oh, we were sent on patrol. Where to, I cannot say that. But we completed the patrol 6-day patrol. We were coming up out of the bush to the rendezvous spot. Young 16-year-old Vietnamese jumped out from behind a tree with a sidearm, shot me, went through my stomach, hit my spine, ruined my spinal cord. That's why I'm in this chair today.
Well, it was Cambodia, and we weren't supposed to be there, you know, but there were people there.
Some of the things that went on over there, you know, weren't really the up, and that was one of them.
And it was a joint operation between the Marines and the Army and all the other branches. When we had landed up there, we landed towards the evening, and they told us to go out and pull reinforcements with the Marines out on the perimeter. Well, we moved out, and it was raining, and we were trying to find a dry place, any place that was semi-dry, just to lay down for a while and do our perimeter. Well, the next, you know, we found these little mounds out there, and you know, we said, well, this is the best place we could find. At least the water isn't soaking in over here. And one of the sergeants came up and said, what's going on? He says, oh, the villagers want to come in and pick up the bodies of their deceased. He says, what are you talking about? I said, well, you guys have been sleeping in a graveyard all night. And those little mounds, because of their religion, it's not below ground, it's above ground, so we were sleeping on top of the graves.
If you find a grave in the jungle, you have to dig up, being point team, you have to dig up every grave to check for cache of weapons, because the enemy would bury weapons in a grave and make it look like a grave, thinking you wouldn't check it because it'd be a body in there. So every grave you find in the jungle, you have to dig up, and most of the time it was a body. And that's an awful thing to dig up, because then you have to bag it and ship it back to the rear to find out if it was an American or a Vietnamese. And it was an awful thing to dig up. So you just fill up a bag and send somebody's boy home. And just thank God it wasn't you, you know.
So I was asleep. I'd been asleep for about 5-10 minutes. And they called away the whaleboat. So somebody came down, woke me up, and he said, it's going to be bad, Mr. Crawford. You've got to, we've got to go. Well, it's really going to be bad. I said, what's going to be bad? Apparently, there was a dead body that was floating along, and a shark apparently had hit it, and the arm flew up, and that's what drew the lookout's attention. And so our captain wanted to retrieve it. And our Vietnamese officer said, what are you worrying about? You know, it's just a dead body. And apparently life didn't mean much, and neither did dead bodies over there. There were a lot of them around. So we got alongside this thing, and it was just horrible. The smell was just absolutely horrible. And it was all bloated, and one leg was missing. And, you know, it was just really a unpleasant thing to do. You know, we did our little part as, you know, civilized Americans.
We would get a lot of what we call small arms fire or harassment fire, which was we couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And about 2 months into our deployment, while we were clearing the jungle away back behind our camp, we ran into a lot of tunnels, underground tunnels that the Viet Cong had dug. And this was where these Viet Cong were coming in at during the evening. And so we basically dynamited it and covered it over with bulldozers and stuff.
That enemy, they had tunnels that were 1,000 years old. Underneath Ho Chi Minh City, they had thousands of miles of tunnels. You know, there was no way we could defeat those people in their own home country. You know,
leveled that city, plus the tanks and the infantry that went in. And we still lost that city. We never gained nothing, because they were all in tunnels underground. They didn't fight there.
people that went in are what we call our tunnel rats. We're a special breed of people, man. They taught and trained them, man. People go in there in the darkness with nothing but a flashlight and a 45, you know, search out the tunnel there. Most of the time we just throw in some white phosphorus, clear the tunnel, man. Say fire in the hole, clear the tunnel. I ain't going in.
They had a hospital
Underground.
Tunnels.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's when they made me a tunnel rat, you know. Oh, that's not a nice job. You gotta go down there by yourself. That ain't nothing nice. You gotta go down there by yourself. That ain't nothing nice. Why you gotta go down there? Because you're the smallest one. Because you don't want to small enough to go. See, that's how they do you. You the smallest one. You a fit. Nobody else fit. You do. So you got to go. And I'm like, well, you can't take no rifle. And a bunch of grenades, and you go down there. When I went down there, man, and the only thing I can see was, holy mackerel. Man, it was like a regular hospital down there. I'm serious, like a regular hospital, underground.
How'd you find it?
We followed the wounded guy. We followed the wounded guy. The one that didn't, well, we knew it knocked him off, but one was wounded. Followed him. And he crawled right through this little hole. Yeah. He knew where to go. So we just circled around that hole. And bigger than smallest person got to go in. Who is that? Me.
So what'd you do when you found the hospital?
Start throwing grenades. One by one. Throw that grenade, throw that grenade, throw that grenade, throw that grenade, and get out. Because they're going to blow in a few seconds, you know what I mean? So I'm, hurry up. I had a rope tied to me. Hurry up. That's true.
Did you take out the whole hospital?
Yeah.
All just you?
I was the smallest one. In my platoon, I was a little 3-year-old in the Marine Corps, man.
Yes.
What?
It was an experience one will never forget. It's hot, dusty.
Most of the nightmares I have was the way I lived in Nam. The bugs, the insects, the leeches, the snakes, the jungle. We were in the Delta. I have nightmares of insects crawling over me, leeches on me. I have had a few nightmares of the fights, the people being blown up and things like that. I don't remember a lot of my nightmares, and I'm glad I don't, because what I do remember hurts a lot thinking about it.
Hot, humid, lots of snakes, lots of big ugly insects, and that was kind of the uncomfortableness of being in Vietnam. At night, when you wanted to get up and go to the bathroom, you kind of really couldn't, because you couldn't carry a flashlight to see where you're going. Otherwise, you'd give your position away, or you would, if you didn't use a flashlight, you'd land up stepping on a snake or something like that. So usually it was pretty uncomfortable conditions.
We were in a firefight, and Koo was his name. He was a Kit Carson scout. He was what we called the Chohoy. He surrendered to the Americans and made a deal with the Americans. And he worked with us. And we were in a firefight, and this kid, he was a kid. He was been in the war like 10 years, since he was like 12 years old with the Viet Cong, till he became a Chohoy and a Kit Carson scout. Bullets are whizzing by everywhere, people are screaming, and this kid stands up and he just starts peeing because war's nothing to him. He grew up in it.
On 2 July, I was a platoon leader near Nui Contien. 2 companies took on a reinforced regiment of NVA with artillery support. I ended up being a company commander, calling in napalm very close. Had one guy come after me with a flamethrower, but I carried a shotgun. We had 56 killed and 1 missing, and he's still missing. It's one of the biggest battles on the DMZ in 1967. I used to have a .45 in a shoulder holster, smoke cigars, Had 2 big knives on my side, and I carried a 12-gauge shotgun. Weren't too many people to argue with. A couple days later, they sent me to the rear, and the colonel told me, I want you to square the mess hall away. So I went to the mess hall. I went to see the mess siding. And I told him I didn't like the look of his mess hall. And he's going to have to square it away. And he said, well, you're the same rank I am. So I tickled his nose with my shotgun and told him, if you don't know about me, you better ask around. I said, you make up a wish list, and I'll be here tomorrow. And I expect to see this mess hall looking a lot better. I come in the next morning, it was better.
I was up on the hill clearing some area out, and a bouncing Betty went off. And I got ripped up pretty good from the back. I mean, I've never been tackled as hard as I was hit and put to the ground for this one. They flew us in the battalion area, and they took us up in there, and they put us in a field med. And that's just tents and cots on dirt. We was all laid out there. The only thing that really was shocking to me is a guy, a corpsman come by, which they are godsends. They're the angels of life, and I don't mean that by any sense, because they are tough guys. They're tougher than we are. But he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 syringes in his hand, and we've got 7 people laid out on gurneys on a dirt floor in a tent, and he comes by, and as he's walking by, choo, he flings them in my rear end like throwing darts at a dartboard at one time.
A couple Cobras will work in an area just north of us, and they've got 30 caliber miniguns, and it's just 2 streams of red, every 5th round being a tracer, and they're just raising hell. And Charlie's catching hell, and you're not. Watching the jets on a mission, you know, where they were attacking some VC in an area, definitely impressive. Nothing quite like looking up and seeing a jet drop out of the heavens, and frost, like frost coming off the wingtips, and they're dropping big bombs and killing Charlie. So for every one of them every mission they went on, our life became a little safer.
During the Conroy, they got hit. And what happened was I was on alert.
So I was an alert team that was out in the middle of a whole NVA division.
Flightman patrol, that's us. We're hearing a lot of movement. We're hearing a lot of voices. So I get the team together, and we get in a cluster of brush and hiding there. You can hear the North Vietnamese Army guys walking this way, walking that way. Later on, I found out it was a whole division. We were outnumbered, almost 500 to 1. So I called every fire base personally, tell them that most likely you might get hit that night, because I didn't know who they were going to hit, because I didn't know they were going to break up. And I called Conroy and talked to their S2 and G2, and told me, you better put your base on red alert, which they never were put on red alert. They were warned, but they were never put on red alert. So when they got hit that night, they got hit.
We didn't get the word till it was too late to go on alert, and they actually broke through our perimeter and came up into the middle of our base camp. We held our own and we pushed them back.
Well, the biggest mistake they did is they broke off in different groups to hit different fire bases. If they would have concentrated on one fire base, they would have taken it over. But they broke off and hit about 6 or 7 fire bases at one night at the same time.
The most serious was Meade River. When I got blown up, we lost quite a few guys there. Because we didn't have the right information. Okay, we just got our asses kicked. When I was up there in the air, I didn't know if I would come back down on another one. That was the most shocking one to me. Because I was like in suspended animation. Either God's going to take me or put me back down on the ground. If I go back down on the ground, I'm not going to land on another land. We lost a lot of guys there.
We were on the same patrol that day. They split up the patrol. We went north, they went east. Never to be seen again. We went back looking for that half of the patrol. We found my friend in a little pile. with his M14 sticking in the middle of a pile and his head on the bayonet. That I still wake up with. A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know what went on over there. What the things that were done to us. Do you know I went on a patrol one day and found 7 of my countrymen hanging upside down by their feet, skinned alive.
We're going there just to drill water for them. We give them food, whatever, water, make friends, and then drill water for them. Whatever. And you just get this smell, and they take you by the hand. And they used to take a red hot rebar and hang somebody upside down. Usually a female, and both orifices are filled with red hot rebar. You know what rebar is? Red hot, and they cook inside. That's about as graphic as I'll ever want to tell you. Okay, and the smell is something you might want to cut that part out. That's really graphic. To be graphic, okay. They take a young mother into a village, pregnant, cut her open, take the baby out and cook it in a fire. That's that smell you don't forget.
2 women missionaries that were prisoners of war and how they had been killed by the NVA. And they were ordered to kill them because they didn't think they could make the march from where they were at to North Vietnam where they were going to go, and they just literally burned them to death. They tied him to a post on an old building and set the building on fire and killed him. That's just pathetic. They weren't hurting anybody, just let them go. And if they survive on their own, they survive.
We had 32 men in a helicopter that went down. It disintegrated. It was a Chinook, and everybody in it burned. And when they took the bodies out, they crumbled. They were so burnt that they just fell apart where they were hugging. And guys were just squeezing each other and their mouths open and screams. And they just crumbled when we tried to break them apart. And you just shove them in bags.
One time, I went up and I would fly in a helicopter. Go up. We had a Marine Air Group that was stationed right next to our camp. It's called MAG 13. It stands for Marine Air Group 13. It was helicopters. They touched down in some little airfield about 30, 40 miles south of where we left in Chulai, and we picked up 3 prisoners, 3 Viet Cong prisoners, and they were going to airlift them to a interrogation camp. So we took off again and flew to another airfield where we sat down, and we basically went there to pick up some Cokes, Hershey bars, stuff like that. Came back to the helicopter, and our crew chief, who was a sergeant, said, "Don't get near the helicopter. It was been booby-trapped." Well, we left the helicopter and escorted these prisoners away from the chopper. Somebody had gone and set 3 concussion grenades in the rear wheel of the chopper. Had we not found it, I wouldn't even be here telling the story. The helicopter would have just been on takeoff, would have exploded. And we took off and flew them to an interrogation camp. And on our way there, they started getting sick and vomiting on the floor of the helicopter. And this crew chief this Marine crew chief was pretty hard-nosed. He started kind of kicking them around and getting rough with them, and they started yelling that they weren't Viet Cong. And so he took their blindfolds off and then stood one at the door of the helicopter and stood him there for a couple of minutes. And we were flying about 1,000 foot off the ground, maybe 800 feet, and they just heaved this guy out of the helicopter. And I just went, whoa. It was shocking. Made the other 2 guys talk. They started, telling who they were and where they were from and all this other stuff, because they sure didn't want to get thrown out of a helicopter at 1,000 feet.
One time, okay, they dropped our food down, and we was in Camp Isolation. They dropped our food, and we and the wind took it somewhere. Oh my God. When we went out there to get it, the whole thing was gone. So we started looking at each other with guns. We gotta eat. I'm serious. I almost killed a dude with a can of peanut butter. You think I'm joking, huh? I'm gonna kill him. I was hungry. He looked at me, who's sheriff? But the ones Russians we had left, they were gone, dude. We were down there eating peanut butter, crackers. That was it. We were looking at each other like, oh yeah. And everybody said, hey, we gotta stick together. When you better start growling. What do you mean together, dude? What do you mean? I'm hungry. It was funny though, man. In a way. It was funny. But people they were dead serious, man, about killing each other. They were hungry, man. You know what it is to go hungry? And you gotta go on patrol, you come back and you walk 8 miles on patrol and come back and you ain't got nothing to eat? That ain't nothing nice.
They didn't send you guys rations?
Yeah, they did.
They got
The
dropped off.
wind took it out too far. And they got to it before we did. They got to it before we did.
So the Vietnamese army was stealing your food?
Yeah, they got the food before we did. And we like, oh boy. It was on there, dude. It was on. Everybody want to fight now, you know. Let's go to war, fellas. Everybody want to go on patrol now. Go get them suckers. Those suckers got our food, man. Let's go get them. Well, that's the way we were thinking it. Hey, they got our food, man. They got to be out there somewhere. We went looking for them. Yeah, we did. We found them trees. We found them and we blew their asses apart. Took our food back.
I was on a hill that we call Fob. That one night I had 3 killed and 13 wounded. That was half of my platoon. I was looking down the valley and had Army artillery shooting 50 yards in front of us. And we had a real bad night that night. My platoon got hit the worst of anybody up there. They dragged one of my people down the hill and killed him, then they killed 2 of my machine gunners. It was so dark you'd hold your hand in front of your face, you couldn't hardly see it. And they were throwing hand grenades at us and we were throwing hand grenades back at them. When I was in Quezon, my platoons, the day prior to me going out into the field, had gone up to a hill and set up a mortar position. And 5 people went up to Hill 861. Unbeknownst to them, there's a large amount of NBA on top of the hill. Only 1 man came back. The next day I took the other half of the platoon out, which was 26 men. 2 days later I come in and I had 6 men with me. And that's all.
They didn't know what a hero was. Like I said, the Vietnam War was very confusing to a lot of kids. Your father was gone. Kind of. I wore my uniform and saw they look at all the ribbons and all that kind of stuff. It was a momentary hero thing.
Do you think you're a hero?
Pardon me?
Do you think you're a hero?
No, I'm a survivor. See all the ribbons, and 25 cents will get you a phone call to Pasadena.
When the stuff hit, I can't put it in words. The only thing I can ever say is when you start hearing rounds coming over the top of your head and bombs going off, or rockets coming in on you, or mortars coming in on you, or everybody scrambling, you got a firefight going on, and somebody's shooting at you and rounds whizzing past your head, a lot of fear. A lot of fear.
We searched and they destroyed. Doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes you run into boys that are bad. You run into too many of them. and then you have to get out. And sometimes I have ran. They call it falling back, but you fall back pretty fast. When they say fall back, you're being hit hard. The term in Vietnam would be shit in the wind. You would be moving. It's hard to say because I don't feel I deserve all the medals I got because I didn't fight no harder than any other man. I just wanted to survive. I cried times. I ran when it was necessary. I dug down in deep in the bullet come over my head. I was in the dirt. I was in the dirt, sometimes firing where I didn't even know. Just where I thought they were shooting from, I shot back. Whether or not I hit anybody, you don't know. You just shoot.
You ask about heroes, you ask about those that served. To me, and to a lot of guys, our heroes were the docs, the medics, the nurses.
We didn't see combat every day, but when we saw it, some of it wasn't too nice. But you got to remember, a nurse was there for her whole tour. Sometimes she was on a medvac coming in 3 or 4 times. She's dealing with this 3 or 4 times a day.
Because nobody ever told them that they weren't God and they couldn't save everybody.
When I got to my hometown, I was treated like a hero, and I was not a hero. I definitely was not a hero. Just another soldier that went into combat for Mom and America and apple pie. I mean, that's not really true when you're in the bush. That don't care. That doesn't matter. You forget about that. It does matter. I don't mean to say it that way. I'm just saying your mindset at that time is just get home. That's what you really want to do, really.
There are those that are soldiers and those that are not meant to be a soldier. I really don't think I was meant to be a soldier, but I tried it, and it didn't pay off. Because I'm suffering still to this day with a lot of problems from it.
I received the Navy Cross in the state of Washington, where I was stationed after I come back from Vietnam. And the reason I got it was that my company, Bravo 19, was almost completely overrun by the North Vietnamese. And I ended up taking over the company as company commander. I called in close air, both fixed wing and helicopter, and used a lot of napalm and a lot of fragmentation bombs. And that's basically what got us out of there.
Who do you feel is the biggest heroes of Vietnam?
Huh?
Who do you feel are the heroes?
The biggest heroes of Vietnam? All of them. Because again, what I had to say, you have to be there to see what went on there. All these idiots that call us baby killers.
Baby killer.
Baby killers.
Baby killers.
Baby killer.
Baby killer.
Baby killers.
Baby killers.
Baby killers.
Baby killer.
Baby killers. Okay? They never were there. They never were there, yo, my man, to see the
Yeah. You ask any Vietnam veteran. Any Vietnam veteran. Excuse me. You ask any Vietnam veteran. Anybody that ran out in this country, draft dodger, left this country, have nothing. If I know they are, I will have nothing to do with them.
That's what they did. You know, I'm not one to judge. I didn't do it. But I'm not one to judge that. If that was their choice, that was their choice. I can live in America. Maybe they can't.
You could always enlist, and chances are you could end up having, getting some schools and getting in a position that didn't incur combat. But if you were drafted, there was no question about where you were going. So I could see where they were nervous about it. Nobody wants to go out and get killed.
That's fine. You make your own convictions, stand by them. Don't run to Canada, France, England, Europe. If you're going to run, stay away. Don't come back. They got amnesty, they came back. Why? If you didn't want to stand up and fight for this country, if you didn't believe in it, you didn't have to fight.
Go out to the war. Little punks. That's all I think of them. They ain't got no place with us. Because if you run from doing your duty, you ain't got no place. You want to have a country, you got to back it up thick and thin. And that's what we did.
I wish we would have outside. I personally feel, in my own opinion, that that's my cousin. And if my cousin says go, you go. So I won't say the wrong, I won't say the right. But I had to go. Look at what happened to me. What do you think I care about them? I can't do this. Hi guys, go back to Canada, live there. Don't come back to this country. We had a part of you people. I'm sorry, that's how I feel. I'm sorry. I put my country asked me to fight out there. And then chicken, that motherfucker wouldn't go. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. But this is what I say about all those. You would go, assholes. This is what I say to you. I'm sorry, I know that now you know, but you cut that.
They should stay away. They don't like it. They shouldn't be allowed to come back, but they were. I mean, some people protested against the war, stood their ground and weren't going to go to Vietnam, and they wound up some going to prison, and they served their time. They stood up for what they believed in, but they didn't run. But they didn't run away to Canada. People that ran away from it, that's all well and good. I wish they'd all stay away. If everybody ran away from war, where would we be if this was World War II? We'd all be speaking German or Japanese, you know, if everybody took that attitude.
To run away, and then because somebody gives them amnesty to come back, is what a slap in the face to America. What a slap in the face to any man that served in Vietnam. Any man that served in any war, not just Vietnam, but any war. Leave, and then all of a sudden, after everything's all over, and how many young men, how many great young men, how many, you know what, maybe cancer might have been cured right now. Maybe it would have been on Jupiter right now. Some young man over there that didn't come back. But he went for his country.
Those that dodged the draft and went to Canada should have stayed there. This is my country, I fought for it.
You don't have anything else to share about that?
I went to Vietnam with a government that was elected by the people, for the people. And I did what I was supposed to do.
Now, if some of them was really truly against war or something, there was other things.
You didn't have to run away. You didn't have to do that. You could have stayed and served somewhere, somehow.
Okay, most of the guys that fled to Canada and all that that was happening after I got out of the service. And at the time, yeah, I didn't like it. I thought it was, you know, figured these guys are yellow. They don't want to go over there. They don't want to fight for their country. But they did have their cause, their reason for not going to war.
I don't hold nothing against them. They didn't want to fight. I didn't really want them with me if they didn't want to fight, because it would have done me no good. We had a conscientious objector that was with us, that was a medic. Now, he chose to go, even though he was a conscientious objector. He wouldn't carry a weapon, but he was the best medic we had.
And I've had some teachers come up and say, well, I don't know if you want us around because I was against the war. And I look at them and I says, yeah, but you stood for what you believe. That's what freedom's all about, is standing up for what you believe in.
There's 58,000 names on that wall. I think they'd disagree a little bit.
Any one of those guys, if they had to go to war, if they had to be over there fighting, push comes to shove, if someone's got a gun against you, you're going to damn well shoot back to save your life. That's the way it is. You can't, a lot of these guys said, well, I can't kill another human being. Well, if you're at the point of being killed, you're going to damn well turn around and kill the person that's trying to kill you before they kill you first. So,
And as a father, I think I would have helped my son get out. I really do, because nobody, nothing's worth it.
Okay? And there's things you have to face up into life, like death. You have to face it. And you don't want to give them away, but everybody said, no, we can't give them away. What would we have? Who would fight for our country? Or who would do what they got to do? There's things in life you have to do. And if my son had to go, no, I wouldn't go, but my love and wishes and prayers would be with him all the way. And I'm saying, America, love it or leave it. But if you leave it, don't come back. Don't want you. Don't need you. And I'm speaking for myself, but I know there's a whole bunch of goddamn veterans out there that's going to say the same thing. Next question.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Some went by the law and said, you serve. Some said, no, I don't want to. So they found a way out, and that's their prerogative. That's why we have a democracy. You can do whatever you want. You're right or wrong, but you still have the freedom to do what you want. Now, if you were in a dictatorship, you would have been shot.
We were on sweeping around the fire base, clear the area, and we got to a point where they said, break down, we're going to eat chow. We got all our chow gear out, and we were cooking our food up, preparing it, and then started eating it, and we hear the choppers coming over. Well, in the war, we were the only ones with helicopters. Nobody else had them. And all of a sudden, we feel like a rain coming down on top of us. And we're looking up in the sky, and it's hitting in our eyes. We're breathing it. It's landing in our food. And we got this lieutenant standing there and captain. Hey, go ahead and eat your chow. It's okay. It's just Agent Orange. It only kills the foliage. It's not going to hurt you at all. So you can go ahead and eat your food. So we did. We went ahead and we ate our food. And we ate it. It's rained in our food. Agent Orange in our eyes. And our food, and that's how I believe I caught it.
To this day, I can still remember being out on the base camp or being at an LZ, and the planes would be low level flying over, and that spray would be coming out. We'd be standing right underneath it. Nobody knew.
Agent Orange. Yes, I did. I saw it, and I saw a lot of my men get screwed up by it. it was like more like a fog. You know, we'd drop it, and it would create like a fog, like a mist, and the wind would carry it. And if the wind carried it, anybody in the way got it. It was terrible, man. They shouldn't have used that.
Since I've been out of there, I went to the hospital. I have a lesion right here, and the doctors told me they don't know what it is. And I was sprayed by Agent Orange, so that is my guess of what it is. I'm no doctor, but that is my guess.
I have Agent Orange in my body. My children have cancers. Agent Orange causes cancers, and it's hereditary. It's passed on to your children. I'm diabetes caused by Agent Orange. That's passed on to my children. I have children with diabetes. No, my son, he has cancer. They've removed one of his testicles, and they still found cancer in his blood and stuff. Agent Orange is passed through the genes of the person to their children, and I believe he got cancer through me.
Oh yeah, Agent Orange. I've got a couple of friends of mine. Matter of fact, 2 weeks ago, real close friend of mine who is a chaplain found out he had cancer, prostate cancer, and found out that it was caused by Agent Orange. Told me that his first child he had was born deformed and then died at birth, and it was caused by Agent Orange, but at that time it was like in the early 80s, and the government denied it. I have another close friend of mine was in the Army, and same thing, he had prostate cancer.
And I have many friends that have contacted Agent Orange, that are ill from Agent Orange. I lost a friend of mine in Florida 3 years ago from cancer, 3 different types of cancer that was caused from Agent Orange. Our government did not want to recognize that, and it took years for recognition that they finally accepted that they were responsible because of the herbicides that they produced and used to defoliate with.
When I came back, the first time I filed my claim, they asked me where state am I from. I said, California. They said, did you ever smoke marijuana? Yeah, I smoked marijuana. Oh, well, we sprayed Agent Orange in the mountains to kill marijuana, so you could have caught it there. I don't think the government's ever paid anybody anything from Agent Orange yet.
Tell me, how could something that strips off leaves and barks off of trees not be considered dangerous to human beings? Agent Orange is something that's the shame of the U.S. government, much like what's going on with the Desert Storm. Men and women of today with what they were exposed to over there.
But it was a bad thing. You know, it's another thing the government did to Vietnam vets. They kept denying that it was harmless. It wasn't going to cause any problems, but yet it's caused numerous problems.
You know, sometimes I wonder, did I fight for the right place? This is the way I'm being treated. I mean, if I would have known that I was going to be treated in this type of a matter, I would have never went. I would have done what one of them little punks did, and they ran to Canada, ran to Mexico.
But I didn't do it, and a lot of my friends didn't do it, but yet we got called those things. And
today, the men are heroes. When we came home, we were the baby killers. We were the warmongers. You know, we were the people that killed villages, that killed people. They didn't stop to consider those people were shooting at us. And a lot of us were doing our job to save our lives. You know, and we didn't get any respect for that whatsoever.
Coming back from Vietnam was a really excitement because we all wanted to get back into the United States, back here.
Yeah, we were escorted through the airport. The police and the military police escorted us through San Francisco because they were protesting against Vietnam at the time, and they were throwing bags of urinalis and bags of shit at us. They called us baby killers, and it was really messed up. I really felt bad. you know.
And then I come to the United States, and when I arrived at Logan Airport, Boston Logan Airport in the U.S. after being in the war, I get a lunger spit in my face and called the Babykiller. I never killed nobody who didn't deserve it. This gentleman, I don't know who he was, turned around, called me a butthole, Babykiller, and spit a lunger in my face. Another one ran up and pulled two of my Purple Hearts off my shirt. Purple Hearts that I earned.
There were occasions where a couple of my buddies, when they went into, they had their uniforms on and were going home, and in a international airport, and they got spit on by people. There were a couple of buddies of mine even got in fights in the airport. When I got home on leave, nobody wanted to hear my stories. You know, they didn't care.
Finished out my time and got my butt back here to good old US of A. Got back here where I thought everybody loved me. What a joke. My first experience with getting back here was I was in San Francisco airport. I was walking through the airport waiting for a flight from San Francisco to Pittsburgh, and six guys that really looked freaky to me, you know. I mean, I was freaky in the jungles, but these guys really look weird. So all of a sudden, they just start getting around me and calling me Babykiller and trying to spit at me. Did not spit on me. And I'm a little bit nervous, you know. I'm in the airport. I think it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And I'm pretty nervous, so I'm backing myself into a corner. I heard these guys in the back say, "Hey, boys, you want to mess with that Marine, you're going to mess with us." And there was 5. I hope you take this in the right context. Old men. You know, I'm 21 years old. These guys are 41, 42, and I'm 54 now. You're going to mess with us. Well, the guys looked around. And they went on down the street. And went down the fairway or something. They ran them off. And these guys shook my hand and said, "Hey, man, welcome home." I said, "Thank you." And they said, "We're converted pets." And I think if you can see the parody there. So anyway, it was really cool that I looked, and now as I reflect back, what I thought was old men, which I'm older than they are now, were true veterans and Americans that stood up for the country. They stood up in Korea, and they stood up for a Vietnam veteran, which was a bad war. So
when we flew into Point Magoo, that's where we landed. It was just real subdued. There was no flags, no bands, nobody there really to greet you.
There were no flags, and there were no bands, and there was nothing like the guys got from for Desert Storm and all that stuff. And there were a lot of vets that were still in, that had been in Vietnam, that felt pretty good at that time, but it didn't help any of the guys that were just in Nam, because we came in pretty quietly and just went about our business.
When I returned from Vietnam in '69, the attitude of the people in California was even worse than it was in '68, and so you don't talk very much about being a Vietnam vet. Matter of fact, it becomes a subject you don't talk about.
What was the response like when you came back?
Oh, well, I was a Babykiller.
Unfortunately, the population punished the warrior for the war, blamed the warrior for the war.
When I came back, got a bad response. My wife, my 2 kids were different. I was different. Had a problem adjusting. That's all I can say right now for that.
And I arrived at my house in the midst of a fight, 6 cop cars breaking up a fight between my older brothers. And I sat in the driveway by myself all night.
You know, some of the Vietnam people, as I recall, treated us better than we're being treated now. And that's horrible to say. put my life on the line to come home and get spit in the face. Now what do you think of that? Is that the way we should be treated?
I haven't tried to commit suicide in 16 years since the last time I tried to commit suicide.